What's going on, fam? Madalinks family, Smash Algernon. Algernon's October on Instagram. And as you can see by my t-shirt, I'm going to be reviewing The Invisible Man. I had a chance earlier last week to hang out with my good buddy Headcrack and those people over at the Morning Hustle Show, Angie and L'Oreal. And we got a chance to witness a screening of The Invisible Man. It's got Elizabeth Moss in it, who you know from The Handmaid's Tale and everything else. And the most things that I could say that I learned about this movie is that this girl is not that hot to be stalked that much. All right, anyway, I wanted to get into kind of the layers of the movie. I'm going to talk about what I like. I'm going to talk about what I did not like, and then I'm going to go a little bit deeper than that. But first of all, let's just kind of dive into the basic details of it. All right, this is a reboot, as you know. H.G. Wells was the original person, came out with a novel many years ago. Many old people read it. They thought it was great, so they decided that it was going to be considered a classic. Other people made the film. It was okay. But this particular version, I would call it the merging of, say, Hollow Man versus any Stalker movie that you have ever seen in your entire life. The comparisons to Hollow Man are fair, but I think the biggest difference between this movie and Hollow Man is in Hollow Man, Kevin Bacon went through different stages to reach insanity, whereas this particular gentleman that is behind all of this stuff here was crazy and a psychopath kind of coming into it. So with Hollow Man, you know, he was more so doing experimentations. He was trying to discover invisibility and ways around that, whereas in this particular movie, it had already been mastered, and this particular gentleman who was at the center of everything was pretty much a brilliant optics. So everything was established in terms of that. So that's how you can automatically from the start separate it from Hollow Man in terms of having its own space. Now, in this one, it's a very tension-heavy tale that's really focused on this particular character named Cecilia. And she's basically looking to escape from a very volatile spouse. Adrian Griffin is the name of the character in the movie. It's played by Oliver Jackson Cohen in terms of that. And in the beginning of the movie, it starts right on it. She's pretty much looking to escape from, you know, a life of abuse and control and hostility in terms of her husband. So she's able to get away. And as she's starting to kind of rebuild her life and kind of deal with the trauma of being in the situation that she had been in all those years, all of a sudden, she gets the news that her ex-husband, her abusive ex-husband, passes. And, you know, this is supposed to be a good moment. It's supposed to be good news. And it gets even better. He passes, and he also decides to leave her a lump sum of money, a big amount of it, in which she should be able to survive forever on this money. All she has to do is basically adhere to his conditions. So, we're talking about a girl who was abused throughout most of her marriage and her relationship and gets an opportunity to escape. And then when she escapes, her husband commits suicide at the thought of basically not having this woman in his life anymore, and then decides to give her a big lump sum of money because he is wealthy and very successful at what he does. And she has an option in that particular moment in which she could not take the money, not live under any conditions that he's set forth, and move along with her life and start anew and try to, you know, rebuild herself and get therapy and all of that. Or she could accept the terms of the money and be able to live a great life and help other people. Well, in true stupid ass fashion, she decided to take the money and she took what I call the toxic behavior severance package. It was offered to her, and she decided to go ahead and take him up on the offer. So after she takes his generous offer of the money and decides to live under these specific conditions of the money, all kinds of things start to happen to the people around her. And based upon her husband Adrian's brilliance in the areas of optics and his wealth and his resources, she was never fully convinced that he had died. Matter of fact, after she had escaped, she was very paranoid. She, you know, always kept something in her mind where he kept telling her that even in death, or even if he ever left or anything would happen to him, that he still would be able to talk to her or get to her. Matter of fact, he told her that he would one day, when she did not know it, walk right up to her, and she would have no idea because she would not be able to see him. So pretty much, as you guys can see from the trailers and the previews, he obviously mastered this ability and decides to take this poor woman through all kinds of things, as well as her friends and family. And it's interesting. It starts off kind of slow, but it picks up speed. And once it really picks up speed, it really picks up speed, and it becomes kind of a jump festival, courtesy of the Anxiety Masters, the good people over at Blumhouse Productions, and they're responsible for all the cool stuff that you see in terms of the horror movies. So they definitely know what they're doing in terms of jump scares, and they did their thing in this one, so no complaints. So in terms of things that I really liked, I think what I really liked is there was a constant tension in this movie. Throughout the movie, there was always kind of this elusive energy that really was in each scene. You just really didn't know what was going to happen. I think in my review I'm going to put into the article, pretty much I said that this movie is basically the unknown holding hands with the unpredictable. You pretty much, you just don't know what's going to happen with it. And that was kind of a strength of the film, in my opinion. Elizabeth Moss, though not the hottest looking woman on the earth to be stalked, especially, okay, I mean, you say to yourself, if you had the power of invisibility, meaning you could be invisible, you would definitely want to do something way more productive in your time than stalking Elizabeth Moss. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, but outside of that, she really did a great job in this particular movie. Like, she really personified the characteristics of someone who was really in turmoil. I mean, she really puts you into the POV of a person that's going through trauma and abuse. And she did a great job in terms of that. The stories and the characters overall, I did like. They were very engaging. And again, you were wondering what was going to happen next. The aggressive nature in terms of everything that was happening. I mean, it was really good. I mean, it was played out well. The effects were good, and every time he was a part of something, you definitely felt his presence and something that was going on. And the story was realistic in terms of if someone was haunting someone and was a psychopath or a sociopath, whatever, and was just really not a nice person. These are some of the things they definitely would do. So it's realistic from that perspective. And the action scenes were brutal, violent, and it was horror-like in execution, which I expect nothing less from a Blumfield production. My dislikes in this film, and I think I've already alluded to as well as said it, I just feel like if one has the power of invisibility, I just feel like there were way better things. You could have went and cleaned up your credit. You could have went and got some money. You could have helped people. You could have reduced crime. It's just so you could have helped people. You could have been a service, or you could have been totally selfish. But one thing you could have definitely done was find a better looking woman to haunt. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying about that. There was things I didn't like. There wasn't a lot of information, I feel like, background story in terms of Adrian and in terms of that. I mean, they briefly kind of glossed over some things. You kind of, knew that he was, very, very smart, very brilliant, one of the best in his field. We knew that he was extremely wealthy because within the first, scenes, they showed his estate, and I think he had like an entire island all to himself. So even when she had to escape acres and acres of land. So we already knew that obviously he was affluent, so we get that. But we really don't know much about it. And there's different things that sprinkled throughout the film in which they tell you a bit about his personality as it relates to her as well as the family, but you really don't get a lot of background with it. And I felt like that was a weak point within the movie. And not as much just in general. The characters are engaging and they're fun and they're exciting and you kind of see what's happened next, but you really don't know much about them. So the backstories around them weren't very deep. So if you're looking for a lot of character development or any character development on this one, it's thin. I'm just letting you know up front. It does take a little bit of time. Here's another dislike for, again, the main antagonist to kind of to show up and I won't say show the face, to show up in terms of in the movie. It does take some time. The big reveal, it does take to me a little bit longer than it should. I felt like, come on, bring on the water. We could have got there a little bit quicker, but we didn't. And I think that was one of the weaker parts of the movies. And again, I have to ask the question. This is the thing that one of my biggest dislikes just as her character. And one of the things that I just don't think it made it realistic. Why would you take the money? Like, what? Why would you? And knowing that it comes with conditions, like, why? If this person has been, abusing you the way they say he has, and a controller and such, why would you take the money? I just didn't understand it. I just felt like she should have moved on with her life and tried to heal and kind of do something else, as opposed to taking the money. But she decided to take the money, and of course, that's when all the problems start. But overall, it's not a bad movie. I mean, it's not a bad remake in terms of what they did with it. The direction they took it in was very interesting, and you'll see it's a pretty fun ride to be on. Other than the dislikes that I had, which weren't that serious, I actually enjoyed the movie for the most part. I would definitely go see it again. It's a good date night flick. Like if you're taking your significant other to a date night, and and you're good, and that person loves being scared and having jump scenes, and y'all can hug each other and cuddle and and ooh and yell at the screen. It's definitely a good one in terms of that. So get yourself something to eat, grab yourself a date, go ahead on and get it. Or if you're at home and you're streaming, pop on something, light one and enjoy your life. But anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this review. The Invisible Man, go check it out. It comes out February 28th, so that's 4 days from now. So this is a non-spoiler review. I may come back with a spoiler, but either way, I think y'all enjoy it. Have a good time. Check me out on Fame Analytics. Once again, make sure you check me out on my podcast, We Come From Bad News. Come to my IG, Algernon Zoctober. You'll see I'm out in the streets of Atlanta. I'm documenting culture, I'm documenting life, documenting everything in between. Take care. Peace.